Europe is finding itself in what can be called as the worst phases of the 21st century. Just as the continent was looking for a glimmer of hope to regain normalcy after enduring 2 dreadful years of the pandemic, Russia's invasion of Ukraine changed everything. The crisis has now become a new normal. Whatever Europe has been used to in the last decade, low inflation and regular international trade will now seem very distant. It is on the cusp of recession. Inflation reaching double digits and long winter with looming energy shortages is fast approaching. As the war reached the 6-month mark, Moscow is in no mood to end the war and Kyiv to surrender. Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Gennady Getilov, accused the US and other NATO countries of pressing Ukraine to walk away from negotiations and that the UN must now play a bigger role to end the conflict. He also ruled out the scope of direct talks between Putin and Zelensky. These remarks come as a blow to the negotiators as they hope that the success of the recent grain export agreement would translate into a broader deal. For Europe, the outlook looks bleak and may likely get worse before any significant improvement well into 2023. Forecasters predicted economic growth of the Eurozone near to 5% in 2022, but now diving into the winter recession is most likely the case. Both households and businesses are suffering the fallout of the war, with high food and energy prices made worse by the drought, the worst in 500 years, and the lower river levels constraining the transport. Retail sales are already plunging. Retail sales volumes in June were down by nearly 4% from a year earlier, led by a 9% drop recorded in Germany. It shows the grim projections for the future. Consumers are giving up certain high-end purchases and are purchasing towards the discount chains and brands. Europe's inflation at 9% is at levels not seen in the half-century, weakening the purchasing power with spare cash used up on petrol, natural gas and staple food. Close to half of Europe's aluminium and zinc smelting capacity is already offline, while much of fertilizer production, which relies on natural gas, has been shut. As people were eager to enjoy their first carefree summer by touring and spending their accumulated savings from 2019, their hopes were dashed. The travel sector is hamstrung by capacity and labor shortages as workers laid out during the pandemic were reluctant to return back to work. Key airports such as London Heathrow or Frankfurt had to scale down operations and cap flights simply because they lacked the staff to process the passengers. And the pain is likely to intensify further as Russia wants to play it hard by shutting down the gas pipelines for days at length, citing unscheduled maintenance. Europe now has to prepare itself for winter without Russian gas, which will test its support to Ukraine like never before. While EU has unveiled plans to accelerate its transition to renewable energy and wean off Russian gas by 2027, supply shortages are forcing it for 15% cut in gas consumption this year. Energy independence comes at a cost. It means colder homes and offices in short run, higher energy costs and giving up on cheap energy supplies and thus high inflation. For businesses, it means lower production, further eating into growth, particularly in industry. In contrast to the US Federal Reserve raising interest rates quickly, even willing to risk recession to tame growth prices, the European Central Bank has increased the rates only once. By moving cautiously and mindfully of raising and borrowing costs of the highly indebted Euro nations such as Italy, Spain and Greece, worrying about their ability to keep paying their debts. Regardless, Europe will go into recession, but with some strengths. As employment is at a record high, as the companies have struggled with growing labor scarcity for years. This suggests companies will hang on to workers as they head for the downturn with relatively healthy margins. This could sustain purchasing power, pointing to a shallow recession with only modest uptake in what is now a record low jobless rate. Europe is already battered with drought and storms. It has to be seen how far it will go and how kind the nature could be for the approaching long freezing winter.
Please subscribe to Nationalist Hub English channel for more interesting videos, and don't forget to like and share this video. Nationalist Hub, it's a news revolution.